Hello, welcome to today's Ftse and DAX analysis. It's the 31st of May 2023 and we're about to have a look at yesterday's trading, what happened, try and analyze that and work out how we could perhaps trade a little better. And also we'll have a run over today's potential trades for pre-market analysis for both markets. Let's dive straight in. So on the UK 100, yesterday we opened around the close at the 10 o'clock bar on MT5, MT4. We dropped right down to the pivot, kind of came back up a little bit. It was about 27 point range. And then from the close, once we touched that close, we just drifted right down to the S2. No real trades available there. I did mention yesterday that potentially getting in around this level could have been worthwhile. Might have been a maximum of 17 points if you did get in at this level. However, I did mention that it wasn't the best trading conditions because it really could have come down to the bottom of this structure here, which was the concern, and the low. Again, it hit the low, rejected for about 13 points. So all in all, not the best trading day. Probably wouldn't have taken a short here necessarily, even though it's at the highs. Some people might have looked at it as a fade of the gap, but we did open on the gap basically, so there was no real gap to play with as such. So basically a big down day. We'll have a quick look at the data here. So the Ftse was down 1.38% yesterday, open to close, and the DAX was down 0.33%. So a bit of a variance there in terms of percentage move. Something to be aware of when you go into your trading. Having a quick look at the UK for today, we could see some rejection around these S2 kind of levels. We're hitting new price territory, so we haven't seen this pricing before. Potentially we could even, if we do push down a little further, we could be looking for some good buying opportunities today. There's a lot of market activity going on, so news announcements across the globe, very important to be aware of. It will probably increase the volatility quite a lot yesterday, as I mentioned yesterday, which is partly the reason why I didn't see any value in yesterday's trading. It was a lot of the market will be waiting for today's trades. It's the last day of the month. Often institutions may be looking to close out positions, and often that can push the market down. However, we're just going to have a look at the longer term scale. So we're coming down very hard on the UK. So it hasn't quite hit a Bollinger Band yet. Nothing exciting there. On the daily chart, we are outside of the Bollinger Band. I've got it set to a 2.6 deviation. Now, we're coming into some structure down here from back in 2023 March. So we might see a bit of rejection come into play here, but there's always the chance that it will continue downwards. What I'll be looking for today is a push perhaps into one of these levels down below, the S2 or the breakout short, and looking for that rejection type activity to take it back long again. What I wouldn't mind using is a push outside of the 4-hour Bollinger Band. We see quite a bit of strength there. For example, here, that was about sort of 17 points there based on that information. So often there's quite a bit of strength in looking at the 4-hour chart and then finding your targets. So perhaps the breakout short, if we do pop outside, down below, and then we'll look for a long on either one of these levels. Just being wary that the market could keep pushing down if there's a lot of selling pressure. So as always, risk management is extremely important. So using the 4-hour, checking the levels and checking if we've touched outside of the Bollinger Band and one of the levels at the same time, and then look for that long position based on price action. Over to the DAX. Now the DAX hasn't fallen yesterday as much as the UK in terms of percentage movement. So that's something to be aware of in terms of both markets, if they're quite correlated, which they're fairly correlated. So just be aware that the DAX could push down or the UK could push up to reverse some of that loss from yesterday that was out of balance with the rest of the global markets. We're sitting at fairly new territory. We've kind of just touched the structure from these previous areas. So something to look at there. We've got the S1, we're right on the S1, so any pushes down below could be a positive way to go north again. We've got the structure here, the people are happy to trade and interact at these prices, or they were back on these days. So effectively, we're looking for the market to push down sharply. We'll have a quick look at the 4-hour to see if there's any opportunity based on that time metric. Now the 4-hour doesn't really give us too much in the way of a Bollinger Band usage. If it comes outside of that, we'll be in no man's land in between the S2 and the S3. So quite a bit of distance there. Probably don't want to play in that sort of an area. However, if we do push down and hit one of these levels, it could be an opportunity to get long. We'll have a look at the daily. Still probably going to come down and touch this lower Bollinger Band as a hope. That would probably be an opportunistic position. And in the weekly, we're kind of above the moving average on the weekly chart still. We're hitting a floor of all of these candles here. So as for today, there may be an opportunity to look for longs. However, keep in mind the big move down on the UK could help pull down the DAX. So it might not actually go up towards the gap like we might expect based on these levels. It could just pull down. However, what I'm expecting is that the UK will probably go up after hopefully a push down to get us into a nice trade. And the DAX really could go either way. There's nothing special that's delivering a good trade setup for me on the DAX. However, the UK, nice push down into either the breakout short or the S2. Take that for a long, perhaps up to the close gap. The only thing to note is that sometimes when the markets are very bearish, they just keep going down and don't have a reason to really turn around. So always keep in mind you've got risk management that you need to take care of. It's not always about getting it right. It's about managing your risk as a more important topic of focus when it comes to trading. Good luck today, guys. There won't be an assessment or analysis for tomorrow as I'll be traveling. However, good luck and let me know in the comments how you go.